place of the springs had stayed, drove the morning book out of hand. The fairies in the forest responding to the plain text, marvels out of thin air present. For a beckoning through the air, the earthlings are awaiting. In the meantime, let's enjoy the catkins pollinating. I say there are older, you say hazel hush. What matters on all hair being downy and harsh. Green beating the grey, so nor I should go away till I get your full heart. I will stay. The outskirts of the forest seem trustable and honest, the brushwood near the center much less. The winter showing up as and snow the creeping up, I knew I was alone, God bless. God himself not there, instead he sent a bird, like its feathers, quick its beak, and almost like its shirt. The experts, the one who don't have a belief, despise it, the pointed heads call it a thief. I am not a servant and I don't want to be, so I trusted its feathers, to you it led to me. Thanks also to the forest, to the wind and the experts, without them I'd never found you.
Cells Enchantment, Booklet 4. Is cancer healable? Cancer cells are winners, very competitive, and steadily increasing their performance. One also could say they are good positioned, sick. If in the human body there were universities with inherent faculty of economic science, the consular student cells there surely were the best beloved ones of the professors of economics. Out of the neighbor faculties of medicine and sociology certainly would rise up yelling protest with reproaches such like disdain of the original cell coherency where they took their roots from, or inconsiderateness. In other words, the society of today is desperately ill because economically cancerized. Is cancer healable? If the cells feed themselves or are feeded reasonably, and the head signals a clear decision in direction compassion upon conscientia, then healing cannot be stopped on its way. The brain is making its clear intent, and as a result, the biological tool shop is ready to start the intervention. The necessary intelligence for that is not barely stored in the head, but also in the 60 billion cells in each of them. There is no single cell which does not possess the means to heal. The head is only a culmination point, a focal point. If it thinks my knee joint hurts, it makes this mistake. It should think, it should say, we endure pain. Pain, just like all other experiences of the body, is a collective feeling. That too is a reason why pain makes us tired, since all cells are aware of it. And it is not so because in the meantime interferon has been fabricated. Barely seen from the outside, it seems as if this chemical messenger alerts all the rest. But interferon is only a byproduct and not the source of the call out. In each cell, conscience has a home place, and directly from this soul faculty emerges the collective feeling, not from a superficial mechanism. Fractions of seconds later, interferon takes care that larger amounts of proteins are produced in order to limit the spread of illness. All of the cells continually know about the inner behavior of the others and take part in it. That is not only true for pain, but also for pleasure, desire, passion, or the research of the truth. Our bodies are everything else than a monitored heap of molecules and atoms. Cell cores even are more intelligent than the presumptuous brains, certainly wiser. And, normally spoken, they are enjoying the same self-confidence. If, however, the upper school master, the upper school teacher preaches high burst, snootily, then they cross their etheric arms and turn the inscription, close it. Virus start then to invade the classroom, and in such an environment soon dark etheric clouds and unbearable soul heat are going to spread out. Around some school banks a muffled terror atmosphere is rising. Free radicals. If a patient goes to a doctor and asks him, "Doc, can you heal me?" then he acts in the same stupid way a traveler do who found a taxi and, pulling his head through the opened side window, asks the taxi driver, "Sir, could you drive me?" That taximan follows the instruction, turns up the window and takes off in the asked direction, transporting with him nothing else than the head of the poor traveler. Lee Carroll, The Journey Homewards, page 98. That person will never be healed. Such a success story is only possible if he should ask the doctor to please help him reinstalling the cells of his body in a position so they can regain their balance. Economical cancer also is healable. Taken into account, however, how thoroughly it disangled the human coexistence on Earth, it should not be a surprise that only a concentration of all efforts will be necessary to make things going better. Especially those countries which always were so proud in proclaiming themselves as being the leading ones, afforded the most support to the downgrading. They were continuously permutating economics with war, and the only aim they really dreamed of was to be the eternal winners. If they happened to be not, the feeling they got was that of being a deadbeat, and all the other who came home without any bouquet they called losers, pillocks, squirts, dead losses, or sots. Very sympathetic. What do we hear on all the channels? Greece got bankrupt? Nonsense. We all together got bankrupt. The head still has a lot to learn. He or it was the most cheered one at the century of Enlightment, though he didn't understand the first thing about what is important in life, just like the century of Enlightenment itself. Caput. Who rules the world? The decision centers with the biggest amount of capital, of money. Money always wins, told my father, and how some of you would like to achieve some change in that sort of certainties. In sending a vibration through it, that, through the world. But at first that, maybe there will be no other possible interim solution than a return to point zero, also for the European Union, in order to make it feasible that the learning process gets along in its progress, making giant strides this time. So the warriors will learn to dance, and to dance it needs the two of us, the four of us, the six of us. Armorica, a waltzer. Armorica is the refuge region for the Celtic peoples. Armorica, beloved land, I always believed in Artus, holding Excalibur in his hand, the sword that allows hope. What's going on with you, Justice, at the round table? They know what happens. The king's seat is still empty in Camelot. Lancelot certainly will arrive in time to unmask this cabal. Armorica, promised land, we always waited for Artus. It certainly is true that a world disaster is approaching, and vast regions will be degraded. Mordred everywhere. Of Blancefleur and her sisters or brothers, no track, broken in 1,000 pieces, Excalibur. But nevertheless, I don't know why we are looking for Artus. Armorica, beloved land, we always have longed for you, for your rocks, your gold beach, and for your wind, of course, when it whispers, undamaged, the sword Excalibur, given back to us by the fairest of the ladies of the lake, whilst the mists are still turning. Her grace soon calmed the tempest on the ocean. The cell. It needs food without poisoned ingredients, also metaphorically spoken, when it's about economics, social cells. The piling up of that toxical debris is the beginning of all evil. Here are some meals on the menu which are not kosher at all. Slogans like, "The war is the mother of everything. Money should work." On the same day, in the same self-declared quality journal, two commentaries side by side. The first one is feeling sorry for the banksters and giving them support, saying they had no other choice than finding and restless reinventing today that greed-filled activity, since they were driven by the pitiless international competition threats. And the second article, that is pleading for more competitivity on the international post market, while this kind of economical behavior allegedly is more efficient. Or, "I love smoking. Cigarettes can kill." Or tablet journals, which over years and years were so proud of the Deutsche Mark strength. Afterwards, as the euro made its way to the top and proved to be even stronger, tried to convince the readers such a strength was dangerous for the export. Or radio reports accusing still yesterday that the South American cheaper bananas were given no chance on the European market, while the African ones were protected. And now, complaint, after those subventions have been cancelled, that dumping priced South American bananas are disturbing the market, which caused the labor conditions in Honduras to get so miserable. These are only a few examples. I could continue hours long. And how about positive menus? What would they put on their cards? I would like the answer to be introduced by a further question. What piece of advice would you best give to an amnesty patient if the latter planned a long journey abroad? That he should take a seat from time to time, trying to remember where he intended to travel to, also of course where he came from, in order to avoid him aiming a second time the same direction, the same destination. Modern men are such patients. With each incarnation on our planet, they seem to have forgotten all about where they come from and what the hell on earth it's going about. Moreover, some of our breed don't take any more interest in knowing the least of the answers. If only they are enabled to have their Wetten das, Shui and Aldi Süd. That was not the aim of the planet deal, of the convention, my dear Homo sapiens. Now, how restart? How reset? In the schools, don't be fools, then there the catastrophe is on the climax. Soon notes and evaluations in the kindergartens, earliest competition voyage to Jerusalem for gaining the right to plant its butt on the diminishing job stools. Is there a life without social assistance? A new kind of education is needed urgently through the big gate, through the great entry. I don't want to call it discipline. Its name? Remembering. Remembering. An example of some content. An explanation to the scholars. What could be the sense of it that newborn humans always forget all about earlier lives? Or how it functions when men always meet each other twice, perhaps in the next life. The aggressor can try it like he chooses, but there will be a moment he and his victim are crossing paths again. The reason lies in the development of itineraries, the itineraries of the soul. Ladders should be the central themes through every school day. As a matter of fact, all items which seem to find their mirrored counterpart in some quantum physics weird roots. All items which seem to find their mirrored counterpart in some quantum physics weird rules. If that is not interesting, boys and girls and science. Human creature, who are you? Where do you come from? Where do you intend to travel to? In fact, in the deepest layers of your inconscient longing, what was the kind of destination you searched for ever since? Even if often enough you didn't mind to forget all about it. Remember, don't pay too much attention to source disclosures or frozen characters and numbers, which rather should be sorrows only for the blind erudites, only for the blind erudites who adore it to guide others, still more blinded. Search for an inner certainty in your feelings, I mean the part of them which remained unspoiled, unconstant. Fluently out of the heart. There lies the real source of each important and true enlightenment, illumination. Exercise it in making experiments with your rests of intuition. The cells, also those of society, they will heal, each day taking a further step, reasonably nourished. The enchantment of the cells. As unexpected as enjoying, while redeeming, just like in the last key scene of Mozart's enchanted flute, Zauberflöte, the rising of the sun. But who wonders? the 4 DNA substances, adenine, thymine, guanine and cytosine. What else are they in their essence than the manifestation of the highest name of what we call God? Yod, He, Vod, He. Homo sapiens, Homo occidentalis, that was it. The economic cancer began its wild growth when arrogant cells started to build egoistic clusters, which in the first place was possible due to the weakness of the body's own resistance system. One of those initiating major moves was the legalization of loans against usurious interests since the 14th, 15th century. Lesser stored in people's collective mind were the later technology upheavals, introduced like a rubbery gunpowder, always serving the few greedy, craggy ones. Industrialization, mechanization, automatization, computerization. On itself, useful tools of development, in reality falsely installed within the social situation of the time. The result was a continuous redistribution of wealth, in our recent decades nearly exponential, made official and anchored after each restructuration and takeover. Never really understood, and after each logical social wild riot, the problem was patched up by improvements for the worse through indebtment of the masses. The Homo occidentalis was extremely proud of his universities, where a sort of academic assembly line was forwarding the needed experts. In a later century, lots of the erudites crowned themselves as being the representatives of Enlightenment on earth. In fact, they were digging in the deepest cellars, where they installed batteries of artificial light sources, neon strip light tubes. The more they digged, the more they confused their neon-bathed cavities with the sunlit rooms above, on the surface, of which they knew lesser and lesser until they even thought the house didn't exist, beside in some old-fashioned legends. Who has such experts does not need amateurs anymore. Who visits such doctors, medicine, needs no swindlers anymore. And above all, who trust on that kind of economists, does not miss charmer anymore, betrayer anymore. So soon a global embodiment appeared, the lying enterprise. A universalized assembly with labyrinth-like corridor connections. A rickety assembly, of course. In favor of the arrogant few. The humans who wish to stay sane and alive in the heart better were disabled and protected. Again, I wish to emphasize, an unequal distribution of wealth on itself is not an obstacle for human well-being, if only it is not getting out of hand. But it did. It got really cancerized as soon as the wealthy ones became proud of no more spending money by buying goods and services. What they aimed was saving and later land, with the bare wish to extend their abundance, their wealth, leaving more and more brothers and sisters, humans, without means of earning a decent living. That is the described essence of Calvinism, or what the money noblesse made out of it. Human souls are a whole, a unity. If one department is doing badly, the rest will react. In this context, the non-Occident. The pyramid lost her intended form, got too flat, and automatically the black cube filled that vacuum. The black cube with a partially, intentionally destructive one. A sort of black soul gate. By neglecting their original aim, the pyramid protagonists, in their ego-colored behavior, lost the initiative right without necessity. And the master potter jerks soon a part of his clay back in the original tub, in order to restart soon with more chance of luck, of success. Doesn't matter anymore. Jean Couvin, Jan Calvin, Johannes Calvin hit the road, since ourselves made a decision. From now on, they want to heal.